Joining us right now is actually not a medical doctor, a dentist. Congressman John Linder represents the 7th Congressional District of Georgia. Congressman, you're a member of the Ways and Means Committee. You're in the thick of this mess. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
You're welcome. It's nice to be with you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about one of these things we keep hearing back and forth in the Hillary care, health care, Obamacare debate about this public option. And now we're hearing about, I guess, the same sort of thing in this idea of co-ops. Do you believe that they're trying to create the same thing, the Obamacare public option, through the back door with these co-ops, or what's the difference?
There is none. My view is whether they call it a public option or a government option or co-op or cornflakes. It is a government-sponsored enterprise put up with taxpayers' dollars, and future Congresses and politicians will try and change the way it works to make it more fair and more affordable. And can you say Fannie Mae?
Or we're talking Fannie Med here.
Yes. We're our future, my grandchildren's generation will be looking at these government-sponsored enterprises the way we are looking at Fannie and Freddie and saying, what did we do?
Well, we're doing things, I think, pretty much in the dark and in the blind. We were playing a cut earlier. Congressman Barney Frank is saying that Medicare is not technically bankrupt, but it needs more money. Is there a difference?
Medicare is technically bankrupt. You can say that we're still having positive inflows, but we've made commitments to the tune of $40 to $50 trillion that we can't make, and this is going to be no different.
Well,
we're both totally out of money, and this will be no different.
Well, what have you all talked about most recently? Well, I know the Republicans are not in the negotiations, but what came out of the Ways and Means Committee, this is not going to be anything close to deficit neutral, is it?
No, and they're not pretending. They're not pretending that it is, and they're going to. And even if you get it within $239 billion. That's the only shortfall, $239 billion. They're going to have a huge tax increase of $550 billion on wealthy people. That's why they just want to get something passed so they can later make it become single payer. And the American people are catching on. They're actually reading the bills that the Congress has not read, and they're angry and scared.
Now, have you had a town hall meeting or two down there in your district, and what are you hearing from your constituents?
What I'm mostly seeing is apprehension and fear. What are we doing? And I don't believe health care is the crux of the issue. I think it's the last straw. They're saying you own banks, we own car companies, we're spending $787 billion on welfare expansion and very little in the infrastructure, and now this? What are you doing?
Well, that sounds like a pretty good point, because most of the people that I'm talking to around the country and all over the place, that the concern is that this government is running wild. And since President Obama came in, we've had more on the TARP, more of the nationalization of the automobile companies. We've had more on the financial industry interventions. We've had the stimulus package, which isn't stimulating anything except government employment. We've now got the talk about cap and trade. We've got a $3.6 trillion budget. I mean, it seems to me that, if I were part of the Chinese government right now, I'd be looking at America and wondering if we were going the way of AIG.
Well, the Chinese government is looking at us and they're saying we need to cut our capital gains tax down to nothing so we can expand, because America doesn't do it that way, and look what's happening to them.
Really? So the Chinese are looking at cutting their capital gains tax. Are they going to end up being better capitalists than we are?
It's starting to look that way to me. They've got a very low corporate tax rate. They're trying to get the capital gains tax to zero, and they maybe already have. And they're saying we need investment, and that's the way you get investment, and investment creates jobs.
Now, what are we going to be able to see when Congress comes back right after Labor Day? You all are going to, I'm sure, hit the ground running. The Obama care package is going to be at the forefront. There's going to be all talk about cap and tax and so forth. What are the Republicans going to do at this point? Are you going to be very vocal? Are you going to come out and have more counter proposals? I know, just for example, on Obamacare, there's some very good counter proposals out there. Congressman Tom Price of Georgia, one of your colleagues down there, had a pretty good outline of a proposal back, I think, in July.
He's got that bill introduced, and I'm a co-sponsor of it, and it puts the patient first. It also deals with medical malpractice abuses. It also deals with expanding pools and buying insurance over state lines. Those are the kinds of things that we can fix, and we can fix it without any taxpayers' money, and those are exactly what the Democrats do not want to do. We have been speaking out. On 2 days in July, on one day 134 of us went to the floor of the House in the 1 minute period.
Yep.
And spoke for 3.5 hours on jobs, and another time on health care with about 140 of us for 4 hours, and you never saw it mentioned on radio or television. So the American, and I'm hearing this in my meetings in my district, why aren't you speaking out? As my wife says, if it doesn't show up on television with at least 1,000 gross rating points, it didn't happen.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to be working very hard to make sure that it does happen. You know, we can't control what happens on ABC, NBC, and CBS, and God knows we don't want to control what's on MSNBC. Let them go, spinning off into what other universe they're in. But we can do a lot in conservative talk radio and the conservative press. We're going to be talking about this again and again and again. And I hope you will keep in touch with us. We're certainly going to keep in touch with you. This is the kind of talk we need, ladies and gentlemen. Congressman John Linder of Georgia. He's out there. He's was a practicing dentist. This is the kind of knowledge base that the Republican Party has. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. Jed Babin for Fred Thompson.